Let's hello. Let's assume. Let us assume. Loud and rambunctious, loud and rambunctious, loud and rambunctious, loud and rambunctious, loud and rambunctious. Your body is made up of trillions, I believe, trillions of beings, little beings that you don't think about at all. But your whole brain chemistry is designed to keep these guys fed, to keep them organized, to keep them in stable conditions, keep them good, keep them not stressed out, you know? Now there's a million ways that we do that anyway, right? But the point is that at the bottom of it, we're trying to prolong the existence of not just ourselves, whatever that means, but these guys, the entire squad, okay? The entire nation, the entire universe. There's a coordinated effort up here, where you are, wherever that is, again, and within. And those cells are doing the same thing. They're trying to organize and make sure that they're good as well. The common denominator as you go down is homeostasis. Homeostasis in a certain spectrum. Obviously, if I was to measure the homeostasis of my body, right, I exist maybe for 20 years. I've been existing for 24 years now, right? But the idea is that your entire cell structure gets replaced, like all of the cells in your bodies gets replaced in 7 years. So I say that to say that for me, 24 years of stability is what, 3 cycles and a half about of bodily cellular stability. Not all homeostasis is equal. What I'm trying to point to is this idea that at every scale, right, there are cycles of homeostasis, but this doesn't just apply to us individually as individuals or subjects, beings who experience subjectivity. This also applies up. What do I mean by that? Families, friends, groups, those have a certain stable dynamic, right? A certain place of homeostasis. And usually when we're in a group, intentions get like mixed around into like systems, creating kind of normal like family dynamics or group dynamics, job dynamics, and those combine into bigger organizations, you know, universities or companies or nations, all of these with like their own respective input and output with the same priority, homeostasis. Now, of course, there's a bunch of things, like a university does something very different than a company, right? But by homeostasis, I don't necessarily mean they're doing the same thing. I mean stability. They can keep doing what they're doing. There might be changes here and there. There might be navigation required, adjustments internally or externally. But the common denominator is homeostasis. To me, things that can stabilize are essentially things that are resisting entropy. Entropy is this like push towards disorder, right? When you have things organizing in a way that exists more than an instant across time, you have something that is the opposite of entropy. That's not to say it's not influenced by it, but it becomes entropy resistant, disorder resistant, chaos resistant. And as soon as you have a stable structure like that, the first priority, the floor priority, is homeostasis. So if we know that, homeostasis is the floor. What you have then, when we look at like the entire spectrum of that, homeostasis scale, what you have is many trillions, give me something bigger than trillions. A lot of units of stability, units of homeostasis, new units, new beings of homeostasis. And again, there's a collection or a singularity where everything kind of conglomerates under a new unit, right? I don't necessarily perceive myself interacting with particles every day. I don't even perceive myself interacting with cells, and neither do you. We don't interact with the entire spectrum of homeostatic units. We interact with a certain range. Now, think of electromagnetic spectrum. We are only able to visually see a very slim amount, but there's infrared, right? Ultraviolet. I mean, really, that should be the only two words. But you have your camera, your X-ray, your bitches, and your pimps, or whatever. But you get what I'm saying. There's an entire spectrum of energy that we don't interact with. In a similar way, there's a certain spectrum of homeostatic units that we interact with and that we don't interact with. The nation United States itself, that is a stable, a homeostatic unit, the United States, that has existed for maybe like 200, 300 years. And it has a certain set of priorities and things that it sees. But we, the 350, I think, million, is that too high? That might be, it's like maybe 311 million or something. People who live inside of the country, we might not individually be a part of that range, but our being is felt in the system as economic stressors, bureaucratic requests when we interact with the government, voting patterns and policies, data that the census goes out and looks for, health, death rates. These numbers, statistics, are the language of the nation, and we are the cells. I imagine that it doesn't just stop at country. There is something about our experience as humans that engages with this like homeostatic thing as if it is infinite, like as if it goes up forever. The idea of gods or God, for now, that idea, that homeostatic systems like unify into new homeostatic systems, we can call the spectrum of that existential density. Let's assume that everything has an awareness, one awareness. There's one awareness from which everything draws from. If we were to assume that that's true, I imagine every stable homeostatic system draws from one awareness, takes that awareness to create a sense of subjectivity, stabilizes itself through procedure, organizes itself, grows and organizes itself. You could call that all part of the process of growing, and then tries to connect with other stable systems within its homeostatic range, existential density, and then produce through their union something bigger, a homeostatic system or homeostatic unit that is bigger, not necessarily in size, but bigger in influence, bigger in awareness. It's not just your awareness alone, but the awareness of another being that unifies with your own. That's all we do. Well, at least everything that's alive. When we say we want to make something bigger than ourselves, I guess that's what we're talking about. Something with more awareness than just our own. And so when I say existential density, I'm saying the density of awareness. I don't know what you say, the plural of awarenesses. Awarenesses. Awareness. The density of awareness in any one unit or being. So a cell has a tiny system of awareness, but we are an organization of trillions of cells combined into maybe hundreds of organizations of those systems, making their own units and combining into one holistic awareness. So that's like, I don't even know how many levels of density of awareness packed into one person or being, but yeah, I think you get the idea. So as you go down, lower existential density, smaller units of awareness. As you go up, higher units of existential density, compact into one space. I think I might have messed that up, but I think you get the idea. I'll put a picture if you don't get the idea. Or if I don't get the idea for you, I'll put a picture. Anyway, I think that's it. That's what I wanted to say with this one. That's kind of the introduction to this idea of existential density. I'll talk more about this later on. See ya.